Welcome to the Millennial Life Coaches Podcast. At MLC, our mission is simple: add value to help you take on massive action towards your life goals. Here, we feature amazing coaches from all over the world, share compelling stories, and discuss proven practices to help keep your energy high and in the flow. Learn more about MLC at millenniallifecoaches.com.
Hi, and welcome to another episode of How to Get Ahead. I'm hosting today. I'm Lorna Taylor. I'm one of the podcast hosts with MLC, and I am joined by Priscilla today, who goes by the name, awesome name, Dr. P. Hi.
Hi. Nice to meet you.
Tell me about that first of all. So Dr. P, how has that all come about, that nickname?
So that really came about because of my dad. So my dad always called me his sweet pea. So when I was looking at in terms of branding, people tell you when you start a business, you got to think about what your brand is going to be, and part of my background includes working in the schools as a school psychologist. So I would have my colleagues would call me Dr. K, right? Because they had a hard time pronouncing my last name, and so did students. But when I started my business, I was like, I don't know if I want to be like that. I mean, I tried it out for a little bit, but it really didn't stick with me. And then one day when I was talking to my dad, he said something. And I said, you know what? I think I'm going to put Dr. in front of P. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to call myself Dr. P, and that's how it really came about. Because a lot of people thought it's just because my first name is Priscilla. Yes, the P does come from Priscilla, but because my dad calls me that. So that's why I go by Dr. P.
Oh, that's a really sweet story.
Thank you.
And the doctor part, does that mean that where does the doctor part come? Tell us about your qualifications and your experience.
Oh, of course. So the doctor is a PhD in general psychology with the emphasis in industrial and organizational psychology. So it is a for real doctor right there. Not a medical doctor. My best friend, she is a medical doctor, love her to death. So she's a medical doctor, I'm the philosophical doctor. And with that doctorate in industrial organizational psychology, that came about because of my passion and desires for working within organizations and systems. And that came about because before that, my previous degree would have been a specialist in school psychology, a master's in psychology, and a bachelor's in psychology. So when I did my bachelor's in psychology, you had to do some minor courses. And I was like, what would I do it in? And because I always had this desire to be in business, my minor courses were in business, HR and everything like that. So I was like, yeah. Then when I went on to do the master's in psychology, dropped the business. And then I did the specialist in school psychology. And then that took me out into working in so many different school systems as a school psychologist, because I wanted to help children, right? Because I'm dyslexic, and I only found that out when I was in grad school, right? And I struggled throughout school, and I could not figure out why things weren't clicking for me, like how it seemed to click for everybody else, right? Everybody else was clicking, and I'm like struggling, trying to figure out, okay, what are the words on this page meaning? Spelling, oh my gosh, I don't like to spell, so it was such a chore for me. But my parents got me involved in other activities, like doing music and dance and netball, depending on which part of the world you are, what netball is, right? And then I was able to learn, hey, I can learn, I am good at things when words aren't involved, right, with reading. And I was realizing that, hey, reading isn't the only thing. And then my parents were able to get me some lessons, and depending on which part of the world you are, you call it lessons, you call it tutoring, so I could get that additional help. And that got me through primary school or elementary school. And then to go through undergraduate first, I had to learn all these different strategies for myself. I tried out different things. I didn't look up anything. I just tried what worked for me, right? And then I realized, I want to be able to help children who are struggling just like me. Don't have to figure it out on your own, but you can get some support. So that's why I went into school psychology. So in school psychology, I'm like, I want to help children. I want to help them succeed. Then I started working in the schools, and I realized you do more with adults than you do with children, because you got to get the adults on board. You got to understand what it is that the adults need so they can actually provide the curriculum, that they can actually teach the intervention, give them the supports that they need, give them the training that they need. Then you learn a lot about the role of HR and budgeting, scheduling, getting all these things in place just so that you can identify the intervention and actually implement it, do some professional development, then how it connects with performance evaluations, because working in an organization, you got to get evaluated every year, right? So having to connect it to all of these big pieces, and of course, the strategic plan for the organization. So having to connect all of what you're doing with what does this organization want to achieve by the end of this year? How can it help them achieve their 5-year goal from now? And when I explained that to people, they were like, but you worked in schools. I said, yes, schools are part of school districts, which are massive organizations. They still have strategic goals. They still have a vision. They still have a mission. They have all the different departments that have to work vertical and horizontally. You still have to be able to put all these things together. So I learned a lot working within the school system and working alongside a lot of people who want to retire and one day have their own business. And I'm like, well, why not start now? And then working with students who don't have any interest in going to college. And it's like, that's fine, let's nurture that. Let's help them get the vocational skill they want to be in. Let's help them get that career. So I was seeing a lot of that entrepreneurship within not just the students, but also the adults that one day when they retire, this is what they want to do. So it really got me to think about, okay, what else do I want to do? So that's all what led me to, I know you asked me the question and it's trying to give you a little summary of how I got to this doctorate. And trust me, this is the summary. There's so much more to this story, right? And this is what got me down that line of pursuing my doctorate in industrial and organizational psychology. A lot of people thought I was going to do educational leadership, but I wanted to do more, especially when you look at the UN Sustainable Development Goals. And I'm like, okay, where can I fit in with these goals to really help improve not just my little space where I am at, but other spaces, not just in the state where I am or the country, but around the world. So I really did some research into, okay, what is going to be beneficial for me to help me get my professional and my personal goals. And it was industrial organizational psychology. That was it for me, being able to blend my different passions together. And I'm so excited because now I'm able to work with micro and small business owners and helping them with scaling their businesses and teaching them some strategies to improve their goals, their processes, and their operations. All of those behind the scenes foundational things that people do not think about when they first start their business. And then they're in year 5 and 10, they're trying to figure out, okay, why am I so stuck? And they're stuck usually because they don't really have their goals identified. They don't have streamlined processes in place. They're not quite sure what their operations are, so being able to look at those things, all from my experiences in working within schools and also professional organizations.
Wow. Right. Okay. I want to dive into that because so strange that you went in through the psychologist route, because I actually did my undergraduate degree in psychology as well. And I went into teaching because parts of it that I really loved was very similar to like working with children, being very sort of on the front line with the children and in the classroom. And I went into teaching. So there's a lot of what you're saying that I'm just like, yes, I get that. There's so much need there. But I also understand why you've worked your way up to working with the staff and the leadership and at a higher level, because if it's not there at the higher level, you can do everything you want in the classroom, but it just does not make the impact you need it to.
You got it.
So I absolutely see the direction you've gone, and then moving into businesses and larger organizations so that your impact is there and it's reaching the goals that you want to do. So absolutely on board there. So tell us a little bit about what your services are then. So what is it that you do within your consultancy, and what is it that you offer and how you help people?
Okay, so offer 3 main services. There's the business coaching, there's management consulting, and then there is training and development. The training and development are courses that people can do on their own. So I do have some online courses through the SOAR Training Institute. Then we have some master classes that occur like once a quarter, and those are also virtual sessions. And right now we have our popular one is Productivity Powerhouse. So when you attend that one, you get to learn some strategies on how can you actually maximize on your productivity. So that because there are little things that once we tweak them, we can become more productive. And it's beneficial, especially for those who are still working a 9-to-5 and want to be able to build their business. Or for those who just want to learn how to be more productive, because I've had some people say, hey, I came because I just want to learn how to be more productive. So that one is there. And then there's also a masterclass on crafting your vision and mission for your business. And those are two things that a lot of people take for granted. Because when they're sitting down and they're like, oh my gosh, which direction should I go? Should I do this? Should I do that? And it's mostly because they don't have a vision and a mission for their business. They just started it because they're really good at something. They jumped into it. Their marketing probably worked the first time they tried something. But now they're like, what do I do? Where do I go? I don't know. So that's where the know your vision and your mission comes into play, because it helps you to give you that direction and that focus. So teaching business owners how to actually craft the vision and mission for their business to move them forward. So that's under the training side. The management consulting, those are anywhere from 30 minutes to 60 minutes. And those are one-on-one with the business owner. I've had just one founder. I've had up to 4 co-founders, with doing the management consulting and the business coaching. And with the management consulting, you get to bring those questions that you have right now about what's going on in your business. And I then give you some answers to those questions that are specific to your business. This is not a generic, hey, everybody who comes to the consultation gets the same thing. No, it's not. It's really driven by the business owner, because I've had business owners who their questions are more about how do I get human resources. Then I've had other business owners where they're trying to figure out which direction should they go with their business. Should they look at this product or should they look at this specific service? I've even had business owners who are just trying to figure out how do they get all the many systems they're using to connect together and help them actually move forward within their goals, right? So it really is tailored towards what the business owner needs for their business. And then with the business coaching, I've had individuals who started with the management consulting and now they want some help with the how exactly do I do all of this, right? That's where the coaching comes into play. So we look at what you have going on, work on what your goals are for your business, not just your personal goals, but also the goals for the organization. And then we map out a whole plan for how you can actually put these things in place. So I'm talking about those actual steps that you're going to be taking, the tasks that have to be completed, the actions you have to be taking. Because too often we use all of these words interchangeably, right? But they actually stand alone. So understanding the goal being the big thing, but then dwindling it down and smaller so you can understand, hey, so what exactly do I need to do tomorrow that's going to help me get to this goal? And then being realistic. In the coaching, we're extremely realistic in the SOAR coaching program, because too often we want to have things done right away. Right? It's like, oh, I want to do this right away. But then I share with business owners, if you wake up one day and you decided you wanted to lose 5 pounds, you're not going to lose 5 pounds in the blink of an eye. You have to put in the work. For some people, in 2 days, they might drop it. But then for some of us, we got to change our sleep pattern. We got to change our water intake. We got to change our sugars, our carbohydrates, all of these things we got to change. And then no 2 people is that change the same. Because I might just got to drink 5 cups. You might only have to drink 3. Who knows? You can give up sugars. I don't give up sugars. And we still get to the goal. So it's really understanding that each one of the businesses are different. You can look at the person on the street and you could want to be like them. You can look at the person on your TikTok, on your Instagram, on your LinkedIn, and you swear you want to be just like them. But you don't know what you don't know. You don't see the parts of what they're doing that's working and also not working that's behind the scenes. What you see is what people show you. So you have to understand your own business. So that's why with the coaching, yes, we go through the questions, through the management consulting, we come up with some ideas and some strategies that you can implement. But the coaching goes a much, much deeper into, okay, we have an idea of where the problems are, but let's truly make sure that we assess your business and uncover that these are the actual problems. Because you might think they're the problems, but they could be something even deeper that you're not even realizing. So another thing we do through the business coaching is an organizational assessment. So you have your own perception of what you think is truly happening, but still walk you through an assessment of the true state of affairs. Because once you can understand the true state of affairs, then we can actually come up with an appropriate roadmap to help you move your business to whatever is the next level you're looking for.
What MLC has built is so needed. It's making such an impact. If you know any other coaches or just people who are looking for coaches, make sure you send the MLC information to them, because what this community can do and create in this world is just truly, it's a blessing.
Now, I get the feeling that you've worked with lots of different businesses of varying sizes and potentially varying industries. Is there, can you give us maybe an example of like when you've helped like a solo founder or micro business owner, however you describe them, like a single person on their own, how you've helped them and kind of what were they stuck with? And what direction did you point them in? Because a lot of the conversations that I have with our coaches at the moment, they're having similar kinds of struggles, and so there's going to be similar sort of solutions. What are you noticing that's coming up in that kind of small business, online coach, online entrepreneurial world?
So like I mentioned before, too often people want to be like the person they're seeing. And you shouldn't want to be like the person you're seeing, because we're different. We're unique in our own ways. You gotta understand, what is it your business has? Why did you create it? And how is it going to help others? So truly having that conversation with yourself, to be like, hey, why did I even start this? Why am I doing this? Right? So that's part of the personal part of it. But you also have to separate the personal from the business. And that is something a lot of people struggle with, especially a solo entrepreneur, because they see their business as them. When really and truly, there's them and there's the business. The business is its own entity. So the business can have its own direction in which it wants to go, and it should have its own direction in which it wants to go, right? And that makes a huge difference, because once you can identify the business as being its own standalone entity, it means that you're going to be better able to craft that vision and mission for that business, to craft the goals for that business. And then that helps you with attracting the vendors and those human resources that you're looking for, whether it is going to be a full-time person or a part-time person or a fractional person who's going to be working with you. But it also helps with attracting your clients. So that's why sometimes people ask me, are you in marketing? I said, no, I'm not in marketing. What I'm in is helping you understand those foundational pieces, which you can then extend to marketing. And you can also extend to the sales, right? Because you have to understand who you are as a business. So in terms of the question you asked about an example, I work predominantly with those in education and in psychology, health and wellness, and in fitness. I've also worked with attorneys and accountants and clinics, but it's a wellness clinic for veterans. So, and also with individuals who are creating funds, right? So I have some diversity there in the industries in which I work in. And also freighting is also in there, and automotive, so those are some of the industries that come readily to mind for those individuals I've worked with, even the music industry, I have some clients in the music industry. And there's some things that are similar, like you mentioned, but then even what you think initially is similar, when you start delving into it, that's where you find the differences. So in working with them, it's helping them see you the person, you the business owner. You have to have that mindset shift. You also have to shift out of being an employee for someone and being the business owner, the person at the top. There's some people who say, oh, being the boss. It's not about being a boss. It's about being a leader of your own business. Because once you become that leader of your own business, then that's a change in mindset. Because there's not a person you're running to complain to. There's not a person you're running to ask permission, for time off, because you want to take time off to go to a show or do something with your family. There's not a person that you're running to because they're evaluating your performance. Because once you are the owner, you're the leader of that business, you're the person people will be coming to. So you really have to first understand that mindset shift. And when you don't get that mindset shift figured out, that could be a source of a lot of your struggles. And I've seen that with business owners, because they're still kind of employee type mentality versus business owner. And that's why I actually created a course to help individuals with understanding that mindset shift. It's a very much so introductory course, so to help people get ready to change from employee to being the leader of their own business. And then once they can do that, it becomes scary. It's like, oh my God, I am the leader of business. I have to do these things, right? Because when you work with organizations, you go in and say, for example, I tell people this example a lot. You wanted to get a pack of blue pens, right? So, Lorna, you want to get this pack of blue pens. What do? You fill a little form that's going to be submitted to who knows where. And in about a week or so, you got the blue pens on our desk, right? Sounds great. Now, as the leader of your own business, you now have to figure out where on earth you're going to find these blue pens. It's like, okay, what kind of blue pens do I want? What's my budget for my blue pens? Okay, what's my overall budget? How much money can I allocate to actually buying these pens? Do I want to get pens, a pack of 6, a pack of 12? How many do I really want to have? Because do I want to have them on stock? Do I just want to have one? Should I just run into the store and buy one pen? No, I want to have them for, have to plan this out. As an employee, you put through a little form and a box shows up on your desk. But you don't know how many vendors your organization probably went through to find the right one that can supply the blue pens that they wanted. You don't know that as an employee. But now as a leader of your own business, you now got to figure out. And it is complicated buying blue pens. There's like tons of different shades of blue there. You got the rollerball, you got the wet, you got the fine point, you got the medium point, you got all these things, clickers, the caps. So now you have to pay attention to those things that you never had to as an employee. You just probably had a catalog, they had 2 options, you pick one. Now as the leader, you got a whole book that could be 300 pages of just blue pens that you now have to figure out which one would be the best one for my business. So when you start looking at becoming a leader of your own business, there are going to be decisions that as an employee seem simple. But as a leader of your business, and to anyone listening to this, they're like, why is she talking about buying blue pens? It's just so easy. It is different when you're buying stationery as a student, when you're buying some pens for your house, when you put in that requisition as an employee. Those are all different to when you have your own business and you want to actually figure out, okay, how can I spend my money strategically? And then when we start looking at systems, when you go and you can buy a system, your email. If you go to Google Workplace, you're going to have your email. Yay, I have an email. But then when you start bringing on people, you got to be like, oh, if I bring on one person and I got to create an email address for them and I got to go through those steps, When you're an employee, you go through orientation, you fill out a form, they tell you, okay, no worries, you'll be in the system tomorrow, click on this link. That's all you do. As the leader of your own business, you now gotta figure out how to do a website. What on earth is web hosting? A URL, huh? SEO, what are you talking about? The structure of the website, where does it go? How does my email address come into play with my URL? What is this www? Do I need a .com? Should I be a dot something else? XYZ, okay, now I have email. Do I need it for 4 people, 5 people? Should I buy this packet? You now have to go through all these things as a business owner. So it becomes a lot more responsibility. So that's why I said, Lorna, the mindset. You have to have that mindset shift of, I'm not the employee just filling out a form, sending off an email, and getting a response. Now, as a business owner, you have to now do all of that in between that you didn't even know existed. Going through all these different channels you had no idea were there, just to do something so simple as to either buy blue pens or give a new employee an email address. There's a lot of things that go into that. So in working with those solo entrepreneurs, it's helping them separate you the person from you the business. Mm-hmm. That goes all the way to your accounting. You the person accounts, the business accounts, and knowing what needs to come out of the business account versus what you pay for out of your own account. And if you're working from home, again, you have to understand what falls under you and what falls under the business. And working with a good accountant, that can help you as well. And especially with tax season, and working with a good tax advisor can also help you with what can you write off when you're working from home. So that's why I said I help you with those behind the scenes foundational aspects that get you started from the get-go in the best way possible for your business, versus you being 5-10 years down the road. Now you're like, oh my gosh, I never separated my accounts, Now I have to figure out how to separate my accounts. What money is mine? What money is the business? Do I call the whole house my place of work, or is it just a part of the house? So trying to figure out those things. And then in terms of branding on social media, am I posting as myself? Am I posting as my business? What am I posting as? And I direct people to branding folks who can help you with that, because that's not my area of expertise. So it really does start first with that mindset shift. Mm-hmm. And once you can accomplish that mindset shift, then the other things can happen. But if you don't make that shift, things are very difficult and you can remain stuck where you are.
I totally agree, and I can relate with my own personal experience, because when I first started coaching, social media marketing, content creation, helping people with that side of their business, I got all of that area mixed up, totally mixed up. And I never made the distinction between my coaching skills, my professional skills, mm-hmm. The skills of helping people, and then the skills of running the business. And it only when, I think it must have been when someone pointed out to me, or I heard it on a training or something like that, that they were like, they're two separate skills. You can be the best coach in your industry, in your niche, and mm-hmm. still have no idea how the back end and the foundational stuff of your business works.
Yes.
You can get somebody to help you with that area, mm-hmm. absolutely, if you just want to focus on the coaching. There's mm-hmm. people that will do the business bit and have no idea about your coaching. So they are two separate skill sets. And we talk a lot with our coaches that all they want to do is spend their time in their zone of genius, being
yes.
with clients, doing the one-to-one, doing the impactful work. They don't want to spend the time looking at web hosting, working out payments, doing tax stuff, building landing pages. They don't want to do that. But at the beginning, it's necessary if you're the only person doing it, but mm-hmm. mindful, like you said, of separating the two and thinking this is business foundational stuff that's super important. Mm-hmm. This is why I went into business, lights me up, my zone of genius, mm-hmm. and having a clear distinction. When I made that distinction in my own business, I was like, I'm not just rubbish. I'm not just rubbish. I'm just good at
No,
this
you're not.
area, and I just need more support in this area.
Mm-hmm. And that is it. It's,
Yes.
like I said, it's that mindset shift. When you're now starting up, yes, there's some things that you're gonna want to do. And I do encourage people to do them, because understanding is a big part of making those bigger decisions later on. Because you don't want to just jump in and the first person that hits your inbox, hey, we could do your landing pages for you. We could do your lead generation for you. And if you hands off from the beginning, then you're not going to understand what truly goes into those processes. And unfortunately, I've seen so many people jump into those type of things. And I think the most I've ever heard about was $100,000 later, still have not gone to where they wanted to be, because they spent money with this marketing place and this advertising place and this lead generation place and this PR person. And they spent all that money before they were truly ready to be a business, to really understand what they're selling. Because a lot of people don't even know what they're selling. Are you selling a product or are you selling a service? They're like, oh, I have a business. Okay, yeah, but is it a product or is it a service? To even understanding what on earth is the difference between those two things, that's part of it. Because when you're going to get and sell your business, you got to know what you're selling. You know, it's not just about you showing up and thinking, hey, I look cute enough, I got this, I gonna sell. It doesn't work like that, because people still want to know what exactly do you do and how exactly can you help them. Because as I tell all the business owners I work with, we all started the business to help people do something. We all did. You can sugarcoat it however you want, you can fancify it however you want. By the end of the day, every single business on the face of this earth was started to help people do something. So it's really understanding, hey, when you're starting out, there's some things that are going to be outside of your normal skill set that you might have to do. But quickly make a note of those things so that when you financially get to a certain point, those will be the first things to go, because they're not in your skill set, you know, and they're also not your passion. So if you're not passionate about accounting, you're going to suck at bookkeeping. But you got to do the bookkeeping until you can get to a point where you can afford the accountant. So that's where that delegation comes in. You know, if you're not really good at doing designs for social media, guess what? As soon as you generate enough money and you can bring in a social media person, get rid of the social media and give it to somebody.
And you'll be glad to delegate it to somebody else, that you can focus on other things. Absolutely.
Yes. So you might gotta be a little uncomfortable for a little bit, but it's not gonna last forever. It's just going to be for a little bit. Then as soon as you get to a certain point, you delegate. And it's all within what works for your business. Because Lorna, for you and I, we might have our list of, what do we want to get rid of, give to somebody else to do. Our number 1, 2, and 3 might be different. Our number 1, 2, and 3 might be the same, but it's going to be for different reasons at the end of the day, right? Our top 10 things might not have any overlap whatsoever, and that's fine, because we're going in 2 different directions, right? And it's just understanding, hey, these are my 10 things that I'm delegating out, and those are your 10 things you're delegating out, because those are what aligns with getting each of us to move our businesses forward. And that's what's important.
Love that. Now, I always ask the coaches that we work with and the people that we network with, well, at the start of the year, I usually ask, what's your New Year's resolution? It's not really appropriate to ask a New Year's resolution now, but what I can ask you is, do you have a word of the year? Do you have a goal of the year? Do you have something that you're focusing on this year that you would like to share with us and tell us about?
So I will first say to you, resolutions, I don't do resolutions. I do goals. I do goal setting. Because once you look at it, the goal setting, you take by far more ownership of it. And you can align it, whether it's a personal goal or a professional goal, you're setting a goal for yourself. And for me, the goal, one of the many goals that I have for this year, of course, is to continue increasing the visibility of my company, hands down. That is always going to be one of the things that I'm working on. But then the other thing that I can share with this audience is that we're looking at, continuing to bring in small and micro business owners. And I know I've used that term, and normally I do explain it, I just realized I didn't. So micro business owners are those business owners who work in companies that have less than 10 employees, including themselves. And I've had people say to me, oh, so you work with the broke people. No, it's not about being broke. Just because you're small doesn't mean you're broke. It means you're small for a reason. Because I have met micro businesses that are in, management fields, and they're product management field and project management field, and they make 3 million plus a year, and they're not even 10 strong. So it really does depend on your industry. So being a micro business doesn't mean you're broke. Being a micro business means you're just small, and that's funny. And I've had business owners who want to stay small and those who I have seen grow. I have a client who, when we started, he was like 20 something in his business. Now he's up to 100 and something. So I'm like, to see that growth is phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. So for me, my goal is to continue helping the business owners that I work with to fulfill their vision for their businesses so that we can continue to grow and we can continue to expand. And of course, I have a course that is called The Essentials for Business Coaching for Ambitious Entrepreneurs. And that course is really designed for those business owners who have heard about business coaching. Should I get it? Should I not get it? And it's designed for them to find out whether or not it's for them. Because it's not for everybody. And people look at me like, but you're a business coach. Yes, but business coaching is not for everyone. You might not need a business coach. You might need something else, and you might not need individual coaching. Maybe you might need group coaching because some people learn better in a group. But to be able to understand what's the difference between individual coaching, group coaching, and team coaching, that's another reason why I created this course. So one of my many goals this year is to continue to push this course, to share with others so that they can understand what business coaching is and if it is for them. Because honestly, Lorna, I am so taken back by the amount of money some people spend with some business coaches and have such an awful experience. I've heard things like 5,000, 10,000, 50,000, and they still didn't get what they were looking for. So it's also about understanding what's involved in business coaching, because that's a big part too. It's not about the coach. It's about you, the business owner, and your teams. The coach can only carry you so far.
Yeah, you doing the work as well. It's not just you don't get told the answers all the time. You're very much there to do the work also. Yeah. Dr. P, I have been snooping around on your website, I have to say, to find out more about you and find out if there's anything that you can share with us and our community. And I came across a free training guide, which hopefully we're going to link to in the show notes of this episode. But could you give us a brief summary of what is in your free training guide and who it might suit?
Sure. So in that planning guide, it's completely digital. So you can read through it digitally. That was something, accessibility is important for me, because not always you can print things down. When you sign up for it, yes, of course, you have to click on the link, it downloads and it can be viewed on a laptop, on a computer, or on a smartphone or iPad or whatever tablet you have. So you can access it in all those different mediums. And it's called the 4 must-haves, right? So the 4 must-haves, and the reason why it is the 4 must-haves is from talking to individuals about what on earth it is that they're looking for in their business. What keeps them stuck? So the 4 must-haves to grow your business came about from those conversations. So helping business owners, again, when you're looking at making that mindset shift and actually being a business owner. And I've had business owners 5 years, 10 years in business say to me, oh my gosh, I wish I had this when I first started, right? So it really walks you through understanding the who of your business, like who's your business catering to, the what of your business, and we kind of talked about that a few minutes ago. And if you missed it, you can always just rewind. No, rewind is back in the day. Oh my gosh, I dated myself here. You could just go back, move the little cursor back there, right? You could go back and you can hear what I was talking about in terms of the what of your business. Like, what are you selling? Are you selling a product or are you selling a service? Understanding that distinction. The how of your business. So the how of your business goes into giving you some direction, like goals. We talked about goals. How do goals come into play anyways? How do goals even help you with understanding where your business is going to go? How do goals help you with getting unstuck? So it does talk about that how component. And then the next part is the when. And I've had people say to me, when? You have a different set of 4 here, because I have a who, a what, a how, and a when. And the when is the one that I found before I officially started my business. And I also noticed it when I was working within the school districts, that when is crucial. And that when is your decision making. When do you make that decision to go from here to here? But then when do you actually do it? Because right now we can make a decision right now. Oh yeah, we're gonna paint the walls of the house blue. All right. But when are we actually going to paint? So understanding why that when is important.
Oh, awesome. And who would be best? Who would that guide suit? Who are we reaching with that guide? Who should go and download it now?
Oh, who should go download that now? Our current entrepreneurs, micro business owners, small business owners, solopreneurs, mompreneurs, everybody got a different name for their entrepreneurial process that they're going through. And I've even had some managers of companies, they have also downloaded it because it helps them with understanding, like I said, the who's your business for? What on earth are you selling? How are you actually going to get this business from 0 to wherever you want it to be, or for wherever it is right now to wherever you want it to go, and when you should be making those decisions. So definitely those small business owners, micro business owners, entrepreneurs, if you're a startup, that's there for you. If you're 5 years in the business, 10, 15, 20, and you're feeling a little stuck, you need to revitalize, it's for you as well.
Mm-hmm.
And it's free.
There's a lot of our coaches, our new coaches who are quite new to the skill of coaching, are also new to business. And so if you've got on your feet with maybe like a coaching qualification, or it's your first year within coaching, maybe you've figured out the marketing yourself, you've got a little bit of traction with some of the things you're doing. If you don't go back, like you say, to the foundational stuff of a vision and, really nailing the who and the why and the what and what you're selling, you're not going to get very far within that first year. And you might get a little bit of traction and then you'll feel like it's all over the place. So even, going back to that, nailing the who, the what, how, and when would be beneficial for anyone in their first year, second year who's kind of got started, but maybe really wants to nail those foundations and get clarity around those areas.
Yeah, because any of the individuals who would have gone through one of the many coaching certification programs, at the end of the day, it's very similar to going through university and getting a degree. You're not the only one. I've been part of graduating classes that were 100 strong, 200 strong, 300 strong. You're not the only one. So you have to figure out what's going to make yourself different. What is going to make you holding this coaching certification different to the others who also achieve that same accomplishment. And yes, people are tempted by the amount of money you can make in the coaching world. But if you're going to just focus on making the money and not the process, of what your coaching company is actually going to be offering, then you're never going to make the money that you want to be making.
And not sustainably either, beyond year one. Yeah. Awesome. Right. I know that you are visible in lots of places online, and we're going to put all the links to all of your accounts and your YouTube and everything in the show notes. But at one of our main platforms is Instagram. So where can someone find you on Instagram, or where would you rather they go and look for you online on social media?
Well, we're on Instagram. My company's on Instagram. So it's going to be on there. And like you say, you're going to drop the links, for the show notes and everything, so everybody can find all the links in there. So we're on Instagram, we're on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Spotify, and Pinterest. I feel like I'm missing one. TikTok, yeah.
But you're on TikTok as well. You're everywhere. How are you managing that to be everywhere?
It is called finding the lovely software that can push out my posts to everywhere at the click of a button. That makes life so much easier.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for giving up your time to be on the podcast and sharing, your business story and a little bit about your services and how you've helped people. I know that the training guide is going to be really helpful as a first place to go if you are quite new to coaching and you really want to get more direction with those business foundations like you talked about. So that's really...
Oh, and I forgot to mention too, Lorna, when you download the training guide, you go all the way through it. At the end, there's a lovely surprise waiting for anyone who goes and downloads.
Was there like a free gift at the end, a nice little treat at the end?
It's a lovely treat. I've had several people take advantage of it because that's the only time you'll be able to get such a treat from my services.
You've got to go through it all. You've got to commit to the training, go through it all, and then you get a little prize at the end. That sounds good for me, actually.
Yes, you do.
Well, thank you so much for chatting. And I hope you had a great time on the podcast.
I did. Thank you so very much, Lorna. And thank you to all of you who listen all the way through, with the questions that Lorna asked me and the responses that I gave. We are really appreciative to have you here. And when you start following me on social media, if you haven't already, you'll know I always say solutions plus actions equals results.
Love that. Solutions plus actions equals results. We should call the episode that.
Hey, we can.
Thank you so much for that nugget. I'll speak to you soon.
Alrighty, bye.